Samuel Morse is one of the grandfathers in the networking community. It's hard to believe that a family accident would bring one of the world's greatest inventions to life. On a painting trip in Washington, D.C., shortly after he arrived, he received a letter from his father saying that his wife had become ill. The very following day, he received another letter from his father saying that she had passed away. By the time he made it back to Massachusetts from Washington, D.C., his wife had already been buried. Deeply depressed, he vowed that there had to be a better way for information to be sent faster over longer distances. A few years later, in 1832, he came to meet Charles Thomas Jackson upon a boat trip back from England. Charles Jackson helped explain to him electromagnetic properties, and this was the idea that he was needing to be able to come up with the main parts of his Morse code invention. While Samuel Morse was working on his own machine, William Cooke and Charles Wheatstone over in England were working on the very same project, coming up with the same possibilities as Samuel was. Samuel Morse was still struggling with the design. In 1838, he talked to a professor by the name of Leonard Gale at the New York University. Dr. Gale explained to him that relays in the wiring system could greatly improve his distance that can be traveled transmitting data. After Samuel Morse finally figured out his distance problem in transmitting information, the next problem he encountered was capital. He had absolutely not enough money to be able to make a working model or working system that could be implemented. He needed some help financially. This is where Alfred Bell came into the picture. Alfred was the son of a steel mill owner. He had the capital to be able to back Samuel Morse's idea. Not only this, he also came up with a better plan for Samuel's Morse coding. Samuel had it that it was going to be a certain number was to correspond with a certain word. Both Samuel and Alfred realized this was not going to work very well. As more words were added, it got to be more and more complex. This is where Alfred actually came up with the idea of just doing individual letters instead of complete words. It'd be easier to be transferred over the lines. Even with Bell's backing, Samuel still had a hard time showing people that this was the way of the future. People just did not believe that this was the way that the world was going to end up going to. Just as a wildfire takes off, so did the telegraph system. Seems like overnight, towns were getting connected by telegraph lines from town to town, up and down the eastern seaboard. Soon they branched out west, connecting the west coast with the east coast with the ability to have datagrams or telegrams sent in a matter of minutes instead of days and weeks. The networking system, took off. This is how Samuel Morse helped build the first network in the United States.